shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Yahweh has risen upon you. A very warm welcome, family, wherever you are around the world. I'm Anya, and I am delighted to welcome you to today's lesson on Feast on Torah. Now, we are in lesson 2 on the topic of friendships. We're here to learn about the different categories of friendship as we walk together on wisdom's journey. If you did not see the previous lesson, lesson 1, I strongly suggest that you go back and watch that lesson first and then come back and listen to this part 2 so that you will have a clearer understanding of the overall subject that we're speaking about. I'll just recap some of the points that we looked at in the previous lesson, and I'll just go through them, and then we will go into lesson 2. Okay, we looked at in lesson 1 acquaintance friendships, we looked at casual friendships, and we also looked at close friendships. We also looked at the many faces of jealousy and envy. In addition to that, we also examined the English definition of the word friend, and we then compared it in the Hebrew definition of friend. And we discovered that the English and the Hebrew definition are worlds apart. We also learned in the previous lesson that the biblical texts were written from an Eastern culture, and the audience were also of Eastern culture. Therefore, we should ensure that we do not impose our Western thinking when we are reading the scriptures, which only leads to error and confusion. And we don't want anyone to be confused. We are confused already as we are. So please bear that in mind when we come to look at our scriptures, our Torah, okay? Also, last lesson, we looked at one of the biblical attributes of true friend. And the Bible made it quite simple. What are the characteristics of a true friend? And we will look at that, which was found in Proverbs 17:17, one of the attributes of a true friend. And it was about, a friend who loves at all times. And I'm reading from the Amplified Version. A friend loves at all times and is born and is a brother for adversity, which means hard times and difficulties. A true faithful friend loves in times of adversity as well as in the times of prosperity. Okay, just to repeat that a true faithful friend loves you in the times of your adversities, and they will also continue to love you in times of prosperity and also in any other areas of life where trouble comes. They're always there for you. So that is good. So a true friend loves you at all times, and that is so simple to follow. Now, the Bible addresses jealousy in various passages, cautioning believers against this very destructive emotion. And yes, brothers and sisters, that destructive emotion are in some people who say that they are your friends. And the Torah teaches about jealousy and emphasizes the importance of avoiding the poisonous effects of jealousy and envy in relationships. And some of you who are listening to this might have experienced this behavior in people that you may know for years, displaying this behavior. And the Bible makes it very, very clear that a friend loves at all times. But at the same time, you might have some friends around you who have jealousy. They're jealous of something that's going on in your life, but they're not saying it. It's well hidden in their heart. And we'll be covering some of this later on in the lesson. All right, let's go to Proverbs 27, verse 4, and I'll be reading from the New King James Version. Proverbs 27, verse 4. And it reads, "Wrath is cruel and anger a torrent, but who is able to stand before jealousy?" Let's look at that same verse in the Amplified Version, Proverbs 27, verse 4. "Wrath is cruel and danger is an overwhelming flood, but who is able to stand before jealousy?" My goodness. So The New King James says torrent. And what is a torrent? A torrent is a strong and fast moving stream. And that's compared to wrath. Wrath is cruel and anger, like a torrent. And when you look at the English definition, torrent, a strong and fast moving stream. And then we look at the amplified version of that when he said wrath is cruel and anger is an overwhelming flood. But who is able to stand before jealousy? And when we look at the word overwhelming, it means very intense and hard to deal with. And we also look at the word wrath in the Hebrew definition and listen to the difference. It means anger, poison from its fever, anger, bottles, hot displeasure, furious, heat, indignation, poison, rage, and wrath. That's the Hebrew definition of wrath. So all of that heavy stuff is saying that all of this cannot stand before jealousy. That is telling you how powerful and destructive the emotion of jealousy and envies are, my brother and sisters. Very, very strong indeed. Wrath is cruel and dangerous and is an overwhelming flood. But who can stand before jealousy? That should tell you something of the nature of jealousy, of those friends that might be in your lives, or might know some friends who've been in your life and have now gone, that were carrying out in their heart this wicked, destructive emotion, that it's stronger than a torrent and it's very intense, and it's asking, who can stand? Who is able to stand before such emotion? Jealousy. Okay, let's move on to James chapter 3, verse 16. Again, I'm reading from the Amplified Version. For wherever there is jealousy, envy, and contention, rivalry, and selfish ambition, there will also be confusion, unrest, disharmony, rebellion, and all sorts of evil and vile practices. Wherever there is jealousy, all that horrible stuff follows on. And if you reflect back, maybe in your early years, and some of you are listening, might be older listening to this message, think of someone, every time you are around them, there is always some sort of contention. And you didn't pay much attention to it now until later years. And there's selfish ambition. There's always confusion. There's always this, when you're around these people, no matter what is going on, there's always seem to be some kind of, unrest or rebellion. And the Bible relates to it, and all sorts of evil and vile practices. And listen, and the little did you know that you were dealing with the spirit of jealousy and envy. So let me just give you one of my personal experiences that I have encountered with this destructive and poisonous emotion, and the lessons that I have learned from this experience, okay? I am a qualified teacher in higher education, and back in 2004, I was working at my local college teaching business studies. Once a year, a government body in the United Kingdom known as the Office for Standards in Education, Children's Services and Skills, they would come and inspect each class at the college, looking at things like the teacher's delivery, effectiveness, quality of the lesson, the quality of the student's behavior, attitude, and most importantly, the teacher's leadership and management skills within the classroom. That was their job. They would introduce themselves and sit quietly at the back of your class. They would sit and they would just sit there and write, making their remarks while you were teaching. And it was very nerve-wracking, I must say. And they would spend their time observing the lessons while making notes. Then they would grade your performance between 1 and 4. So the grading is 1, up to four, and I'll go into the details of those, what they all mean. And they would feed back their results and their comments to the college principals, how bad or how good they found your teaching session. Now, on one occasion, family, I received a poor grade for my teaching session, and I did agree. I did agree with the poor grading because I delivered a terrible teaching session. The reason why it was so poor, um, I was highly stressed at the time because my mother was just diagnosed with dementia, and that hit me for six. And the emotional roller coaster that I was experiencing affected my teaching session. And there was no excuse, it was bad. Now, the score grades are as follows: one means outstanding, two, grade two means good, grade three means require improvement, and grade four means inadequate. Family, I was given the lowest score. And the embarrassing thing about that is that my name appeared for the world to see on the college notice board. Yes, my name was in bright lights, the lowest score, which was a grade four, which translated in the educational world as inadequate. Well, what do you think happened that day in the teacher's break room? When all my lovely friends, supportive friends, and colleagues, about six of them, saw my failure of that low grade, grade four, on the college notice board, what did you think they all do? They were like bees to a honeycomb, falling over themselves to comfort my disappointing grading. Oh, Anya, we saw your score. Never mind. Have a cup of tea, they would say to me. We will take you to lunch and try and cheer you up. We are for you. If you need to talk, just come and see us, okay? We're here for you. Don't worry about it. You will do better next time. Don't worry. And on and on. The outpouring love, unyielding love was just oozing from my so called friends and colleagues. I never expected demonstration of such concern for me, to be honest. I felt so privileged to have such caring and supportive friends. And my goodness, it was good. These people are in my life. I am so blessed. That's what I believed at the time. Well, to cut a long story short, I did have another assessment from those people. They were now the shortened version called Ofsted officers. And this time I was given a grade one, which translates outstanding. Yes, I receive outstanding grade one. My name appeared for the world to see again on the same college notice board, in the same college corridors. I went into the same staff break room as normal, and the same loving, caring, and supportive friends and colleagues. They were all there, family. But this time, it was different. And you would never ever guess what happened. There was an overwhelming silence. When I tell you it was overwhelming, it was a deafening noise of silence, family. Not one word was mentioned about my grades. I continued working at that place, that college, for another 18 months, family, and not one of those so called friends or my colleagues ever congratulated me on my outstanding grade score. Not one brother and sisters, I'm telling you, not one of them. The only person who said well done was my college principal, and he was overjoyed for me and said to me, well done. Well, to be quite honest, I did not know at the time that I was walking wisdom's journey. I stayed silent for the duration of my employment at the college, and that was for another 18 months. And I said nothing. I said nothing about the event. I just observed very, very closely these people's behavior and, and I came to my own conclusions. From that day forward, I learned some valuable lessons that not everyone jumps for joy when you are winning. At the same time, you're there looking at these people thinking, what is going on in their brain? Let me repeat that. Not everyone will jump and raise your flag for you when you are doing good, when you are successful. And that was a very important, it was a very painful lesson to watch it in action. Do not expect your fair weathered friends to salute you when you are successful. Their mouths might be moving with all the right words, but their heart, oh my goodness, their heart is filled with the destructive poison of jealousy and envy. And you need to learn how to recognize it so you can deal with it effectively, brothers and sisters. Now, there is a scripture that taught me how not to choose my friends, and and I need to put this practice into place in my life, and I did at the time. Oh yes, I did. And some of you listening to this will need this also, to put that practice of what we'll be reading from the Bible, put that in your life and practice what it says. Let's look at Proverbs 18 verse 24, and it reads, the man of too many friends chosen indiscriminately will be broken in pieces and come to ruin. But there is a true loving friend who is reliable and sticks closer than a brother. Did you hear that, family? A true friend who is loving friend, who is reliable, and they will stick closer to you than your family, basically. I truly believe that some of at least one of these people at the college where I work was a true friend. I did believe that. But I soon learned very, very quickly not to choose friends indiscriminately. In other words, at random. I learned over the years to become more selective of the people I bring into my life, and you need to do the same. I am now fully aware of the characteristics of a fair weathered or two faced friends. They are out there kicking like crazy. They are in your face. And sometimes you don't even recognize these people because it is well hidden. So, here are some of the things that I put into place to help me to be a better friend to others and also not to take people at face value. Number one, that you need to put into place for yourselves and good practice is critical thinking. And critical thinking, you will learn how to develop the ability to analyze situations when it comes to those who say that they are your friends and evaluating how you would spend your time with them. How are you going to spend your time with these people? Let me repeat. Learn how to develop the ability to analyze situations when it comes to those who say that they are your friends. And you must evaluate how you spend and who you spend your time with. Okay? Point number two, make informed decisions. And boy, did I make some informed decisions. And you can also too, evaluating the fake friends from the genuine friends. And when you learn the traits and the characteristics of these people, it's so easy to do. You can spot them a mile off, okay? So it's good to meditate on these. Don't be obsessed by it, but just be aware of it. And when you need to put it into practice, you just put them into practice. And I must say at this point, brothers and sisters, learning does not stop after formal education. Can I say it again? Please, family, just because you might be in your 50s, 60s, 70s, it doesn't mean that we stop learning. And young people are coming up in the world. You can learn at any age. Formal education does not mean that education stops. No, it does not. It does not. You need to know the ingredients For healthy relationships, I need to know what are the ingredients for healthy relationships, how to develop my understanding. You need to know how to develop your understanding that makes relationships a healthy and fulfilling friendship. We all need to do that. Otherwise, we'll just spend most of our time in tears and in pain when it can be avoided. You see, one of the problem is people tell you who they are most of the time, but my goodness, we do not see, because some of us out there, brothers and sisters, you know who you are. You just want to be accepted by everyone. And that is a recipe for disaster, okay? That is a recipe. If you just put up with people because they phone you and they talk to you and they have a pizza with you, does not make them your bosom friend, that they have your back, family. Please be aware. Point number 3, self-interest and inconsistency. Brothers and sisters, one of the characteristics you need to look for those who only want to be your friend. They want to be friends with you only on the basis of self-interest. Their friendship is often motivated by what they can gain from the relationship rather than a true bond of concern for you. I know it sounds painful and terrible, but they are there. They only want you for what they can get out of you. Yes, yes, they are out there, brothers and sisters. It's time to clean house and revisit some of your relationships and see if you can identify those self-interest friends that are only looking out for themselves. Our scriptures are filled with instructions on how to identify the traits of a bad friend. We can learn from our ancestors, and our Torah has left us examples after examples so that we may learn the ingredients for good relationships, good friendships, and also to identify the ingredients of bad relationships, bad friendship. Now, there is a famous story of a bad friend, and you are all familiar of his name, Judas. And I will not be reading about Judas because even a baby, a 5-year-old, no heard of Judas, know the full story. But if you want to go and read his story about Judas, you can find it in Matthew 26, chapter 26, verse 15 to 17. Chapter 25. You can also look in Luke chapter 22, chapter 47 to 48. And here we see Judas, who behaves and acts like a friend, but puts his own self-interest above everything else. And with friends like him, or with friends like those with that kind of behavior, who needs enemies? Have you any modern day Judas yourself in your life, family? Are they well hidden? You're not aware of their behavior, only about their own self-interest. And there are effects. There are effects of a bad friend. What are the effects on you of a bad friend? You might think, oh, it doesn't affect me. I don't care about them. Really? Well, look at the bad effect that Judas had on our Messiah. A bad friend is someone who brings a negative impact on a person's life. Let me repeat that. A bad, so-called, fair-weather, two-faced friend is a bad person. They bring a negative impact on your personal life. And Judas' actions brought a negative outcome to our Messiah. But praise the Most High Yah. He had the outcome of our salvation well under control. So Judas didn't win anything. Not at all. The scriptures summarize the characteristics very clearly of these fair-weathered friends, and we should take heed of their behavior and watch out for them. So when they show up in our lives, you already have your actions ready to deal with these people. Now, Proverbs 19, verse 7, the Amplified Version reads, "All the brothers of a poor man hate him. How much more do his friends abandon him? He pursues them with words, but they are gone. Did you hear that, family? All the brothers of the poor man. Nobody wants to know you when you're poor. They hate him. And it says, how much more do his friends abandon him? He pursues them with what? Words, but they are gone. Oh, yes, these types of friends might be present during a fun and happy moments, but there are no signs of them during your time of need or your time of stress. Proverbs 19:7 again says, you pursue them with words, but they are gone. You can't even talk to them. They are nowhere to be seen. They rarely exchange the support and effort you put into the relationship. Often they're taking more from you than they give of you themselves. They do not give themselves, but they will take and take and take. And you just give and give and give. But these people, it's a one-sided affair. Don't waste your time with these kind of relationships, these kind of friendship, these kind of people. They are not in a relationship with you because they care. They don't care for you. It is all about them. What they can get from you at your expense, family. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Let me read Proverbs 19:7 again. He says what? The brothers of a poor man hate him. How much more do his friends abandon him? He pursues them with words, but they are gone. Who are gone? His so-called friends are gone, nowhere to be seen. And some of you may find this very hard to believe, that you have such people in your life, even now. You just believe these people had your best interests at heart. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't they have your back? Because you've known them most of your life. You went to school with these people. You grow up together. You were on the same team together. You ate at the same table over the years and you trusted them. You went to each other's wedding, for goodness sake. Yes, these are my good friends. We go back years, and yet, yes, and yet they are holding a great big weapon of destructive poison. Where is it hidden? In their heart. Why? To destroy you. Not destroying themselves, they want to destroy you because there is something about you that you have that they want, and it doesn't come naturally to them, and they will spout off all the praise and all the glory, how wonderful you are, but in their heart, who can stand in front of jealousy? Who can stand in front of jealousy? And think about that, family. And it's time to look at your life and pray about it. Ask the Father to help you when you make any decisions before you go and run off and do something. Pray and wait. Ask the Father to show you if there's anyone in your life that needs to disappear, that you need to disconnect yourself from. Take it to prayer, because sometimes it can be very, very painful, but you need to do it for your own sanity, okay? Now, let's look at another bad friendship, when friends are giving you bad advice. Why? Because they're jealous. So they'll tell you something for you to do, and then it goes pear-shaped and you don't see them. Rehoboam. Let's look at Rehoboam. I'm just telling you about Rehoboam. Again, it's in the scriptures, and he can be found, the story of him, in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 6 to 15. Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. Now, as a prerequisite for accepting him as king, the people of Israel came and requested that he should reduce their heavy tax. Well, wouldn't we like some of that? The heavy tax burden. So, it was because of his father, King Solomon, put it on the people. Now, Rehoboam told them to go away and come back in 3 days for his reply. So the people did exactly what they were told. They went away and they came back again to see him after 3 days. Now, I'm going to put the 1 Kings 12:6 up on the screen, 6 to 15. I'll read for you. From verse 6. Then King Rehoboam consulted the elders who stood before his father Solomon while he still lived, and he said, how do you advise me to answer these people? Verse 7. And they spoke to him, saying, if you will be a servant to these people today, and serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he rejected the advice which the elders had given him, and he consulted the young men who had grown up with him, who stood before him, and he said to them, what advice do you give? How should we answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, lighten the yoke of which your father put on us? Verse 10. Then the young men, yes, see, he's gone from the older now to the young men, full of wisdom, yes? Listen to what they told him. Then the young men who had grown up with him, here we go, growing up together, so I know you, so whatever you say must be true. Thus you should speak to these people who spoke to you, saying, your father made your yoke heavy, but you make it lighter in us. Thus you shall say to them, my little finger shall be thicker than my father's waist. Did you hear that? His little finger shall be I have to laugh. The little finger shall be thicker than my father's waist. And now, where has my father, verse 11, put a heavy yoke on you? I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scourges. You know what that means? I'm going to rip your skin apart. Imagine that. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam and the third day, as the king had directed, saying, come back to me the third day. Then the king answered the people roughly, not gently, roughly, as his friends told him to, roughly, and rejected the advice which the elders had given him. Verse 14, and he spoke to them according to the advice of the young men, saying, my father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scourges. So the king did not listen to the people, for the turn of events was from Yahuwah, that he might fulfill his word, which Yahuwah had spoken by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Well then, what was the result of this wonderful exile from his wonderful friends who he grew up with? He received a wise decision from the elders' advice to go and speak to the people. Oh no, that's not. Let me go and listen to these young ones down here. His best friends. Oh yes. So what's the result? Rehoboam bad friends contributed to his failure, and that is their bad advice sparked a rebellion, leading to the loss of what? Of a greater part of his kingdom. So much for taking advice, hey, from so-called friends. Now the question is, where were these close friends when he lost a greater part of his kingdom? Did they come and find him and apologize? Did they say they were sorry? No. We also see examples of the two-faced friends in the book of Job doing the same thing. Now, but let's back to Rehoboam for a moment. You would have thought these friends would have come and said, oh my goodness, we made a mistake. I am so sorry. Nowhere to be found on the planet. He lost his kingdom. There you go. And the final one, that we see Job. Again, everyone knows Job's story. And Job's friend did at least three things right that can be seen. And you can find the story in the book of Job, chapter 2. And if you read from verse 11 to 13, but I'm just going to give you the briefings of it because it's a very famous story and you can go and read it first. Very positive. First, they came to him when he was suffering. That's a good sign. When you're suffering, your friends come to see you. Good. Second, they empathized with him. That is a very good sign. They began to weep aloud. They tore their robes. They sprinkled dust on their heads. That's in verse 12. And third, they spent time with him. That is so good when you have a dear friend, when you are going through your difficulties, your pain and your suffering. And a good friend will find the time to come and sit with you while you go through it. Then verse 13 states that they were with him for 7 days before they offered their advice. 7 days. They mourn with silence. They sympathize with their friend in silence. What a good attributes those are that their friend exhibited when Job was going through it. So far, friends, so good. But Job's friend's silence did not last for long. Did not last for long. And these three friends gave a series of speeches to Job. And you can find it was recorded in chapter 4, right through 25, okay? You can read chapter 4 right through to chapter 25. The speeches of Job's three friends include much inaccuracy, primarily involving why Yah allows people to suffer. But if you look at the response of Yahuwah, you can see that he clearly condemned Job's friends' advice. And that is to be found in Job 42, verse 7. And I'll read that for you. My wrath is aroused against you. Who runs against who? Job's friends. My wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. They were saying things about Yah that was not true. Basically, we're telling a lie on him, that his behavior. And sometimes our friends come with their interpretation that your situation is happening because you must have offended the Father. That's why you're in this mess that you're in. Here we see Job's friend, the overreaching belief. They believe that Job was suffering because he had done something wrong. And as a result, they repeatedly encourage Job to admit his wrong and repent so that Elohim would bless him. Friends, we need to be very, very careful indeed when making assumptions about people that you don't know anything about their difficult circumstances and you jump to conclusions saying it must be A and it must be B. That's why they're suffering, because the Father is punishing them. Now, much can be learned from the example of Job and his friends. And when we are aware of a friend who is hurting, we can allow the positive example of these men by going, to the person and mourn with them and spending time with them, supporting them in their time of need. That's a very good sign. Our physical presence, family, with a hurting friend is so important. It is a great value and a blessing to those who may be hurting at the time. And it can also be a great comfort in itself, even if we have no words to say. You think back sometime, you have a friend who is really going through it and words fail you. What can you say? But just being there, just to be a friend holding their hands, it's an absolute treasure. And in addition, we can gain also wisdom from what Job's friend did wrong. So we learned two lessons from Job's friend. They displayed what to do in the positive term, but not too far off that, they displayed what not to do. So this you can learn the good and the bad from Job's friend. Instead of telling a hurting person to admit his wrong and repent, when we don't know the reason for their suffering, is wrong. And there may be some friends in your life as we speak, assuming that your current friends, and your past predicaments were there. They believe that, you're fallen from grace and Yah's now judging you. So that's why he's doing all this. So, you're being punished because you have sinned and you need to go and confess. They are so wrong. That is so wrong. And if you're one of those people who do that, please stop. Do not be judgmental when you don't have all the facts. Now, let's look at this John chapter 9, verse 1 to 3 to show you a good example of this, and then we wrap our lessons up. Right. So, as I was saying, we under no circumstances assume that your friend troubles are a sure sign of Yah's judgment on them. That is wrong, okay? So let's look at John chapter 9, verse 1 to 3. John chapter 9, verse 1 to 3, and reading from the Amplified. While he was passing, he, the Messiah, was passing by, he noticed a man who had been blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, which means teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? Can you see the trait there? You can see how quickly the disciples already jump to conclusion, just like in today. People making hasty judgment without any facts at all. They assume this man's been born blind because he did something wrong, or his parents must have been up to no good, so that's why he's born blind. You must have done something wrong. That's why you're being punished. That is wrong, family. If you have that judgmental attitude without the true facts, you are going the wrong way. Who needs a friend like you? Who needs a friend like that? Look at the Messiah's response to that, to what the disciples have said. John 9:13. And he rebuked them. Yahushua answered, neither this man is nor his parents sinned, but it was so that the works of Yah might be displayed and illustrated in him. Who are you to point finger? He said, why? Some people have things happen in their lives only for the glory of the Most High to be demonstrated. And this man was born blind, so healing can take place. And so the glory and the praise and the honor can go back to the Father. So in this situation, Yeshua is telling them that the works of Yah might be displayed and illustrated. So no, you are wrong. It's got nothing to do with this man sinning or his parents sinning. Okay, you are wrong. And we can join together and encourage a friend to endure faithfully, knowing Yah sees our pain. And he knows the pain sometimes have a purpose to heal. So be warned, family. Don't be too quick to jump to a false conclusion of any of your friends' dilemma. Please don't do that. Dealing with fair weather friends, or two-faced friends as we call them, can be challenging. But here are some practice steps that you can take, okay? The examples we have seen so far say a lot on toxic and fair weather friends. They can impact your lives and the lives of others negatively. So therefore, it pays to cut ties from bad friends. And as I said earlier, if you're going to cut ties with your bad friends, don't be abrupt. Take it in prayer, wait on the Father for your instructions, and do what he has told you to do. Okay? So, let's look at the ingredients of a right relationship in the Bible. Question: why Abraham was called the friend of the Most High? Why was that? Well, probably Abraham's willingness to give up his son, more than any other single action that he may have taken, made him Yahweh's friend, proved to Yah that he could be depended on. And we see in Genesis 22, verse 12, Amplified, and he said, do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear and revere Elohim, since you have not held back from me or begrudged giving me your son, your only son. Now notice the words of Nehemiah reflecting on this in Nehemiah 9:7-8. And again, this is from the New King James Version. You are Yahweh who chose Abram and brought him out of Ur of the Chaldeans and gave him the name Abraham. You found his heart faithful before you. Isn't that amazing? What a commendation by Nehemiah. The Most High found Abraham's heart to be faithful. That is a fantastic trait to have as a good friend. No wonder the Father called him friend. Because what? Just like Yah was faithful to send his son for us, he did the same thing to Abraham to offer up his son. And Abraham did not hesitate. And in the book of the Most High, that's good enough for me. You're my friend. Now, if we walk with Elohim, if we confide in him and let him confide in us, if we are loyal to him and he sees he can depend on us just like we can depend on him, then Elohim will find our hearts faithful just like he found Abraham faithful. He found our hearts faithful to him also, just as he did the heart of Abraham. Whose friend? His friend, the Most High's friend. And Isaiah 41:8, see it's happening again. Isaiah 41:8 refers to this. But you, Israel, are my servant Jacob, whom I have chosen, the descendants of Abraham, my friend. And there you see it repeated again in Isaiah 41:8. Even more important for you, how can we build a relationship like that? Ask the question, how can I build a relationship that my Father in heaven refers to me as his friend? How can you do that so he can refer to you as his friend, my friend? That's how the Most High referred to Abraham. And you can see it, as I said before, in Isaiah 41:8. What an extraordinary relationship. Here we see a limited, physical, mortal being thought of by the all-powerful, immortal, all-knowing, supreme Elohim as his dear friend. Isn't that amazing? How was such a relationship possible, family? What constitutes that kind of friendship? Have you ever thought about this question? How did Abraham manage to become a friend of the Most High? And I am sure that you have encountered many people in your life, and you will no doubt encounter many more, even dozens or even hundreds of individuals who became your acquaintances. And we told what acquaintances were. But only a few of them became your close friends. Why? Exactly what is a friend? What is a friendship? Faithfulness, loyalty, something they have displayed that distinguish them from the acquaintances. What did they do differently? A few of them only became your close friends because of their faithfulness. What a friend, hey? One of the major problems we have friends who do not agree about anything. They are walking two separate roads. They might have known each other or may know each other for years, but when they get together, it's always World War VI going on for some reason. And the Bible states very clearly in Amos chapter 3, verse 3, can two walk together except they agreed? And the prophet, he asked that question, can two walk together unless they agreed? And some of you need to look over your relationships that you're currently in. If you are walking together in agreement, yes, you don't have to agree about everything, but if there's always turmoil and aggravation with this person or persons, and you can hardly ever agree about anything, why are you friends? How are you blessing each other, for goodness sake? The Bible says very clearly, can two walk together? The answer, of course, is no. Two people walking together over any distance, family, they must be in exact agreement as to where they are headed. Let me repeat. If two of you are walking together over any distance at all, then you must walk in agreement to where you are headed, the direction that you are going, the speed you're going with, and the traveling that you're doing has to be agreed upon. If they are not in precise agreement after going to a short distance, they will no longer be walking together. No two people can walk together if they're not in agreement. And to conclude our lessons today, before we go there, these are very simple things we can look at. Two people cannot walk together if you're not in agreement. And if they are not walking in peace, if they're not walking in precise agreement after going a very short distance, I can guarantee you they will no longer be walking together. Okay? So to conclude our lessons for today, here are some practical steps you can take and you can apply them to your relationships. They're very simple to follow and you just take your time and go through them and practice them. And I pray that they'll bless you. Number one, recognize the signs and pay attention to inconsistent behavior, family, of your friends. Are they consistent? Are they lacking of support? Look out for their superficial interactions with you. Pay attention. Recognize the signs, number one. Number two, set clear boundaries, family. Some of you haven't got no boundaries. People walk over you, they feel they can do anything to you because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So there are no boundaries. You've got to stop that. Set clear boundaries and define what is acceptable and what is not in your relationship. Communicate clearly and assertively what those boundaries are. It's not hard, family. Give it a try. Number three, limit engagement. Okay, reduce the time and emotional energy you invest in these fair weather friends, and instead focus on spending time with people who are supportive and genuine. Okay. Number four, evaluating the relationship. Reflect on the value and impact of the friendship on your well being and consider if the relationship is worth maintaining or if it's better to distance yourself. That's not rocket science, family. Come on. It's your life. Reflect on the value and the impact of the friendship, of the relationship, and consider if the relationship is worth maintaining. If not, disconnect. Surround yourself with friends who are consistent, who are supportive, who can be trustworthy, where you can meet new like minded individuals who think like you, behave like you, and have the same vision as you, encourage you, strengthen you, and you do the same for them. Evaluate your relationships. Number five, communicate your feelings, family. Communicate your feelings. If appropriate, have an honest conversation with a fair weather friend about your concerns, okay? Express how their behavior affects you and see if they're willing to change. That's another simple one. Have a conversation. Have a coffee. Go for lunch, okay? And tell them how you're feeling. Focus on self improvement and develop your own emotional resilience and self worth. Engage in activities that boost your confidence, family, and independent of your social circle. Understand that not all friendships are meant to be deep and lasting. No, no, no. Accept that some people may not be capable of offering the support that you need. Disconnect from these people, cut them loose, family. Letting go can make space for more positive and fulfilling relationships by taking these steps. You can better manage fair weather friends if you put your mind to it and create a more supportive and enriching social environment. Family, these are not difficult things to do. You just need to practice them. Mutual respect is another one we need to do. Ensure that your friendships are based on mutual respect and avoid one sided relationships where you feel drained or undervalued. Okay? If the friendship continues to be toxic, family, or unsupportive, please consider ending it. But always, as I said before, take it to the Father in prayer and wait before you take any action. The examples we have seen so far speaks of fair weather friends and how they can impact your lives and the lives of others around you negatively. But the scriptures also teach us about the traits of a good friend. Therefore, it would serve us well from time to time to assess the kind of friendship that you are currently in. And if you have to disconnect from those relationships that makes you feel ill or undervalued, and is always one sided, do it through prayer. And then you wait for the Father to instruct you, and then you take action. Sometimes we ourselves, I like to add at this point, we are not good friends. It's not just everybody, somebody else. Sometimes we are not as good friend as we think we are. We believe that we're a good friend, we're a special friend, we're a dear friend, but no. And that can come to some conclusion out of your own head. No, there's always room to improve, that you can be a better friend to those people in your life. And then take it to the Father again in prayer to work on becoming a true friend the very thing you expect from somebody else. Examine yourself first. Ask the Father where you're falling short in every sense of the word, and then fix those attributes, and then put yourself out there to attract people in your life who can be a blessing to you, and you can be a blessing to them. And I will leave you with this final scripture as one of the main ingredient of a good and trustworthy friend in Matthew 5, verse 27. It says, "But let your yes be yes and your no be no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one." And that's a big one today. People don't keep their words at all. They just talk. And the talk is cheap, but the word of Yah is not cheap. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. For whatever else, family, coming out from that and does not match what we've just read, it is from the devil. So that your integrity about your word and your commitment you make is your trademark. Make your yes and your no be no. Let that be your trademark, that you're someone of your word. Be a friend that will be remembered for keeping your word. Your yes is yes, your no is no. Anything that does not fit into that category, as I said before, is from the evil one. And we don't want to associate with him because he's not our father. How many of you made promises to someone and it is yet to be honored by you, and vice versa? It is not good, family, when the words from our lips cannot be trusted because we fail to practice a commitment to words that we have spoken. We need to, again, examine our lips, our words. Have we made promises that we have not kept? You meet people you haven't seen for a while. Oh my goodness, you bumped into them in the supermarket or wherever. I will call you when I get home. Oh yes, later. I'll call you later. Yes, and we will arrange lunch. It was so nice to see you. 6 months later, and you are still waiting for the lunch date call. Never happened. So please make this one Matthew 5:37. Every time you say something, think twice before you say it, but don't say it if you don't mean it. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything else from that comes straight from the pit of hell. So, family, this brings us to the end of our lesson. Hope you've had a blessed time. And I hope that you'll put into practice some of the things that we have discussed so that you can become a better friend, okay? Take time to evaluate all your friendships and apply wisdom to any actions that you're considering to take. And I'll say to you, until next time, arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Yahweh has risen upon you. Don't forget, family, to subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Let's grow and explore together. Until next time, shalom to you and your household. Shalom.